The Altitude Show is brought to you by GoHunt.com. GoHunt is the hunting company. Anything that you need for hunting out west, you can find at GoHunt.com, whether that be their world-class gear shop. They have all the best brands vetted by their amazing hunters that work at GoHunt. Trust me, it's the best brands. I do almost all of my hunting shopping on GoHunt.com. But also just their research tools. Like the whole year, you should be doing research, whether that be studying their maps, or reading articles from the likes of Brady Miller or Trail Kreitzer, or looking up your drawing odds in various states and when to put in. There's so much information, and it's a great resource. Go to gohunt.com, use my code ALTITUDE, and you'll get 20% off on just about everything I just mentioned. But you should become an insider. When you become an insider, you can get access to all of these things. So go to gohunt.com, use my code ALTITUDE for 20% off. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Altitude Show. I'm your host, Dave Brinker. We are recording today's episode from the BOWTECH PROSHOP in Eugene, Oregon, where I am setting up my new bow. I've been talking about this for a while, how I was going to get a new setup this year. And today I'm joined with Cory Ford, my new friend Olivia, and we are back in the back secret room, and we are building this new bow. I've spent all day here going through many different variations of bows, and I've finally settled. So follow along as we talk to Olivia as she's setting this thing up. And yeah, enjoy. Yeah. And the Altitude Show is brought to you by Mountain Tough Fitness. If you are approaching the holidays like most people, you're going to start eating a bunch of junk food, not working out, etc. I highly recommend that you do not do that. Use this time to get your mind and your body in shape. Go over to the App Store, get the Mountain Tough app. Use my code Dave20. You get 20% off your subscription. And you follow their programs. Do it every day, or 3, 4, 5 days a week, and you will feel so much better. They have programs for everybody, experts, beginners. Mountain Tough. Use my code Dave20, 20% off. All right, so we're at BOWTECH, and this year, I decided that I wanted to switch bows. And long story short, my buddy Cory Ford and Shannon, they highly recommended that I check out BOWTECH. I'm an Oregonian. Made tons of sense to me. I've shot a BOWTECH before, but it's been a while. And so eventually we found a day, we've been trying to do this for a while, to come down here and come to the shop. Amazing people. Casey was so inviting, and the team here was so inviting. We've spent the last 3 or 4 hours here going through different bow setups, and finally settled on a bow here. And Olivia is going to set this up while we're talking, and we may ask you some questions. Olivia, you got all the answers. She's absolutely the expert. She's amazing. By the way, this is Olivia's first podcast, and she's a natural.
Well,
she's
thank you.
She's got it dialed in.
Yeah, you should start a podcast.
All right, let's go. I get a welcome back for episode 2 then?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So just so everybody's clear on what I came down here for, my priorities. I wanted something. I've been shooting about 60 pounds with a probably pretty close to almost a 600 grain arrow for the last few years. And some people may say, wow, you're an idiot. I came from a traditional bow hunting background where I shot heavy arrows. The speed didn't really matter too much to me. When I switched from a recurve to a compound, it was for other reasons. It had more to do with target panic than did me trying to take advantage of the latest technologies. But over the course of the last several years, I've been pretty successful with my compound, but I wanted more speed. I also, at the highest level, I wanted to work with a company that I actually knew the people, and I really like them. So when this all came together, this local company that I only live an hour and a half from, I wanted to find more speed, but also maintain, I don't want to shoot some crazy performance-oriented bow. I don't need that. I'm not a target archer. I'm an elk hunter. I need to be able to shoot pretty accurately, 50 yards and under, through small holes, with my heavier than normal arrow, because I do shoot the Valkyrie system just like Cory does. So we shot a few different bows today, I think 4, and we ended up going with the Core SR at 70 pounds. How long is this, Cory? Remind me.
That one's 33.
Yeah, 33 inches. And it has what they call a comfort setting on it. It has a performance setting and a comfort setting. Can you guys explain that a little bit? What that means? Olivia, you can take it if you want. I know Cory had some opinions on this too. I shot both. To me, the performance setting felt like, I think the way they explained it to me, it has to do with the hump that you go over right before you get to the back. and it felt a little bit.
It's a more aggressive draw cycle.
Yeah, it's aggressive, but it gives you more speed, a little bit more performance, whereas the comfort setting is a lot smoother. And for me, drawing back on elk when I don't want to raise up, make a bunch of movement, I want to be able to draw back smoothly with as little movement as possible. Did I describe that correctly, Corey?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're on the comfort setting with this bow, and Olivia's going to be setting it up, and Corey and I are going to bullshit while you're doing it, Olivia.
Perfect.
What are you going to do first?
What draw length am I going to set it to?
37 and a half.
Bummer. We got to get you into something else then.
Dave's got gorilla arms. He's only 5'9", but got a great reach.
Got the long.
27 and a half.
Okay.
Is what we're going to do. And I'm also filming while we're podcasting, so I'm trying to do a lot of things. So, Corey, you've been shooting BOWTECH for a long time.
I have, yeah.
How long?
I shot my first BOWTECH, let's see, what was it, 12 years ago?
Yep.
So,
and it's awesome because you're, Pacific Northwesters. You guys are hardcore Roosevelt hunters. I think it's great to work with local companies when it's possible. And you guys have been extremely loyal and obviously happy with the performance. Yep. What tell us about the bow that you shoot?
Currently I'm shooting the SS34, which you got a chance to shoot today. Mm-hmm. SS stands for super smooth. So for guys who have never shot these, I don't know. I mean, everybody talks about how, nice the draw cycle is on a lot of these bows, but like to your point, the ability to change from a comfort to a performance setting and have it be a super smooth, literally a super smooth draw, to me is a huge selling point. Because, as you indicated, I don't want to sky draw my bow, when an elk's coming in. A lot of the stuff that we do in our Roosevelt hunts it's all really close proximity too, mm-hmm. right? So minimize your movement. And whether that's here on the coast or if you're going to Arizona to hunt coos deer, if you're in Hawaii hunting axis deer, a lot of times movement is the thing that gives you away more than anything. Mm-hmm. Your concealment, your noise, your scent, that all factors into it. But as soon as you move, mm-hmm. that's generally what they pick up on. So I wanted something that I could draw really, really smooth. Being that I have a 31-inch draw length, I need something with a slightly longer axle to axle to generally accommodate that. And for me, having a longer bow is a more forgiving and better shooting bow. I mean, there's a reason why target archers, every one of them, it looks like they're shooting something that's 7'9". It's like they put cams on the end of a longbow. So I just want something that is really, really smooth drawing, very forgiving on the shot. I'm not a fantastically mechanical sound shooter, so I need the bow to kind of help me out to improve my shooting ability. And I'm aware of that, and I'm not afraid to admit it. So,
and I'm hyper aware of that too. And I told you guys that today. And the way I look at it is like, I'm not trying to win target tournaments.
Correct.
I have a friend who's the best in the world at that, Bodie Turner. He can go win those. Bodie, go do your thing, right? I shot ground.
I'm not competing with 16-year-old kids.
Yeah. I shot ground squirrels with him one day a few years ago, and I was super embarrassed. So I'm out on that. What I need is something that I kill elk with, mm-hmm. and deer as well, obviously, but elk is my priority. And the length doesn't really bother me from a functional perspective, like walking through the woods. We were talking about that today, because I used to walk around with a 64-inch recurve. So a little bit of added forgiveness and comfort in the length to me is worth it. So that was, although I did shoot what was the longest one I shot?
The Reckoning Gen 2.
Wasn't that 30?
39?
30, you shot the 36.
36.
Yeah, so I shot a 36-inch Reckoning today, which is a super cool looking bow. I love the idea of it. I didn't personally like the back wall.
The back wall.
Yeah, it felt a little bit jumpy for me.
Well, that bow has two different styles of draw stops on it. So you can have a soft, squishy back wall or that hard back wall, depending on.
Yeah, and he did change it, and the second time I shot it, it was really nice. Mm-hmm. But when it came to all the things I wanted, when we went and shot them all through the chronograph, this, with the arrows that I'm going to be shooting, performed the best. You weren't in there, but we shot all of them through the chronograph. This one shot 260 feet per second with your arrow.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Wow.
So the SR in Core SR stands for Speed Redefined.
Oh, look at Olivia. See, this is her first podcast.
There you go. Wow. I think one of the things that you brought up, you want a bow that's going to kill elk, but you also want a bow that you enjoy to shoot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I don't want to be miserable.
And that's what I like about the comfort setting on these things is like I can go out and shoot them all day long. You know, I can put reps through it without feeling like I'm really fatiguing my rear deltoid every time I draw my bow. So you want something that you can go if you have a Saturday and you're not doing anything, you can go shoot 100 arrows and it's no big deal.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't like shooting your bow, you're just not going to do it as much, even if you need to.
Yeah.
You know, if you hate squats, you're probably not going to do them as much at, you know, max squat reps.
Well, and that's also important
if you don't like it.
because I'm jumping up 10 pounds this year.
Right.
So I already have a little bit of that. Like even when I was shooting on the range, I'm like, I'm going to have to get my muscle used to this. I mean, I draw it fine.
Right.
But it doesn't feel like my bow right now, which is super easy to draw. And even before that, I think for 3 years, I hunted with 50 pounds.
Wow.
And I shot through elk and deer and everything with that thing. But when you do hit those big bones with that lighter bow, I never chronographed that bow. But I'm sure it was really slow, especially with my arrow
especially
setup.
if you're shooting a 250 on the front.
Yeah. Well, at that time I was shooting 200. And I think this year I am going to go to, I don't know. I'm going to play with I'm definitely going down. I'm not shooting 250s anymore. 180, 200, somewhere in there is probably where I'm going to land. I know you shoot 200.
I do. I have both setups. I have the 180 short jag, and then I shoot the 200 jagger. But I changed the sleeve on them, so my 180s had a stainless sleeve, and my 200s have the aluminum sleeve. So I actually lost a little bit of weight, even though I added another 20 grains on my overall broadhead weight. And we did the same thing that you're doing now. Like, the super heavy FOC is great, but if it changes your trajectory, especially in this brushy country, not open country, brushy country, your flight path of your arrow is now is changed. So if you're not accustomed to noticing things that are just outside of your sight picture, if you're shooting at 40 yards, but there's a tree limb that you're going to hit at 20 because your arc is so great, that doesn't really, at the end, help you out.
Yeah, and in this country with all the diffused light, it's very difficult. Even if you try to look and see and you adjust the aperture of your eye to see all the limbs, like when an elk's standing there, you don't have time to do that.
Right.
It's like you take a quick look, like this happened to me this year. The first shot I got this year at that really nice bull. It was a longer shot. It was like 60 yards, but it looked wide open.
Right.
And at first glance, it was that probably 30-year-old timber, really clean there wasn't a lot of underbrush because it's pretty sterile under there. Is that sterile stand? Yeah. And I'm like, oh, clear as a bell. Poof. And then like halfway there, I didn't look, but in the arc there was a log over, like kind of laying diagonally. But I looked at that log afterwards. I'm like, my arrow should not be arcing that much. This is not the right setup for this anymore. I've grown past it. And so that's what spawned a lot of these conversations. Now, some would say, well, you're still only shooting 260 or 270 feet per second. I am compromising some speed to use the arrow setup that I want at the heavier FOC and all that stuff, the Valkyrie system, which we can talk about. I'm willing to do that. Yep. But I would be willing to bet. I actually didn't chronograph the current bow. I should have brought it so we could chronograph it. But I'm willing to bet it's a lot less than 260.
Right.
A lot.
Yeah. And when you break under 250 and you start down into that 240 range, that's when you really notice that arc. And, you're talking about momentum and energy downrange. A lot gets lost after 40 or 50 yards, even if you've got a heavy setup that's pulling your arrow down. Just some things that a lot of people won't necessarily take into consideration. And I think that if you can find that sweet spot of what works really, really well for the different styles of hunting that you do, and that's probably what most people want is something that works for everything. Sometimes that's not achievable, but you can try to get as close to it as possible.
Yeah, for sure. It's just like clothing. You can try to buy an all-in-one jacket, but they're not usually very good.
They're not as good as the one that's specific for...
But I do think that usually us Western hunters, or all archery hunters, we may hunt a variety of things, but we have a priority. And for me, like I hunt a variety of things.
Yep.
Ooh, we're getting the bow press out. What are you doing, Olivia?
So I set your draw stop. I set your draw mods on comfort. Put on the rest, put in the sight. I also set your cams through our deadlock system. So I ran it back to the deadlock system and then did 2 full turns into each cam, which is factory center for each cam. Then we're going to tie on a D-loop, put on some soft knots, and set your center shot and put your rest together.
Awesome.
Nothing to it.
Yeah.
I think that's
Unless you're a mechanical idiot like I am.
one of the things that she just brought up that I think most people miss about the BOWTECH system. If they, for whatever reason, have something in their head from 15 years ago that I had a buddy that had a limb blow up on him, and so I will never shoot BOWTECH again. The technology that they have in their bows now, I think, is kind of unmatched in the industry, at least in the cam system for sure. The ability to tune your bow with an Allen wrench, single Allen wrench in the field, no need. The only time you ever need a bow press is if you're changing your string or you're putting in a D-loop. I mean, not a D-loop, sorry, a peep sight. Other than that, you don't need one to do all the tunability. That you've lost your yoke system, you have no shims, you have no spacers, you're not doing string twists to try to get your cam lean correct. You can literally do everything with a single Allen wrench in the field. And I've had to do this personally prior to a hunt, actually on a hunt, opening morning. Yeah. Retune my bow in the field. It took me 15 minutes to get my arrows flying straight, and as soon as I was done, I had so much more confidence in the flight of that arrow that I didn't have the bow wasn't a worry on whether or not I was going to kill an animal. And I killed my biggest mule deer like that afternoon. So
yeah, I think that's something I always tell people. I know it's happened to me personally, and our customers in the shop. Usually, when everything goes wrong, is when you're furthest away from a bow press and all the things you need. So this really helps this technology. And then our new on this bow and our 2024 bows is the time lock. So you can also change timing without a press now on the new platform. And I also adjusted grip lock. I didn't ask if you wanted it. I just went ahead and did it.
I did want it. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. I thought you might. I just went half elevated, but pretty easy. You just
that is a super cool
break
feature.
your screws, use the actuator screw on the inside, and you can put that grip in and out.
Yeah, so if you're a high wrist or low wrist shooter, I have horrible flexibility in every joint in my body, especially my wrists. So I need the help of the bow by doing that. So I've always, on the other ones, you used to be able to snap in or out one or two different heights. So I would always run the high wrist. So it compensated for my inability to flatten my hand out. So
I'm looking for knock pliers. I don't usually work in this room.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't see any.
I don't either.
In the toolbox over there, where it says knock set pliers.
I looked there first, and there wasn't any in here.
As I've gotten old, I used to make like in-season changes, Corey. Like,
oh yeah,
yeah, or But as I've gotten older, the reason we're doing this now is because the winter time is a great time to improve all the things. Look back at your season, find out what you were missing from your pack, find out which pieces of gear didn't work or worked well, and you want to get more of them. Especially what I've learned over the years, arrows and weapons, or even a rifle, a new scope or whatever, that's wintertime activities. We should not be doing this in August.
Correct.
And I think
Please,
a lot of people,
and all of your local bow shops will thank you if you do it in the winter and not come in August.
And I used to do that. I used to put off some of this stuff till last minute.
Yeah.
And my older mentors would always tell me, now's the time of year to be building arrows and getting your shit dialed, because you'll get into the summer and you'll have the entire spring and summer to actually practice with something that you already have dialed in, and you don't got that stress. So when Corey and I started talking about this trip, I'm like, dude, let's try to go as soon as possible. Christmas, January.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be hunting with this in California in February for hogs, and then Hawaii in April. So, but
I think it's important too, because if you come right out of season and address your needs or concerns right away, you don't want. Yeah, you're not going to forget about it until the following year. But it's easier for you to then make the changes and then get used to it before the following season.
Yeah.
Where you see a ton of guys that just buy bows in August, or get a new arrow set in August, and then they're last minute resighting in their sight and going like, I'm going to go hunt, obviously a lot of new hunters do that, which is unfortunate, but addressing it right after the fact, I think, is the best way to do it.
It's fresh in your mind. Yeah, absolutely. It was the promise I made to myself this year, that's for sure.
Because whatever the problem was, it isn't going to go away.
No. I won't mention names.
Very well said.
Yeah.
He's a philosopher.
Yeah, you might want to write that down.
Little stoicism on this afternoon's podcast.
Yes. I had a friend a couple years ago who, the season prior, he had some serving. Well, his serving was worn out, and so he every once in a while a knock would fall off. You'd jump off the string where it's drawn back. So 2 years ago, we were hunting together in a dream bull, 15 yards broadside, like a 300-inch Roosevelt, 15 yards broadside, looking the other way, and the arrow popped off, went into the gravel road, and the bull ran off. And he's like one of the best elk hunters I know, like very experienced. Usually his gear is very dialed. But for that one thing, he's like, it was so not a problem most of the time. I just didn't worry about it from the year before, and I didn't want to go to the bow shop and get a new string and that or what else. But now he's like hypersensitive to all things.
Yeah.
And I've made stupid mistakes like that too. So.
Yep. No, one of my hunting partners, Jason, he sent two arrows into the abyss over the top of a bull that was 20 yards away that had no idea that we were there, because his D-loop was starting to fray, and he was shooting a caliper release.
Right.
And it requires a certain thickness on the string, or else it will slip through. So 3/4 draw, and the arrow took off and shot over the top of the bull twice. Well, the first one stuck into a tree.
Well, if you're going to do it once, you might as well give him two, huh?
I was like, what are
Somehow
you doing?
the second one hurts so much worse,
Yeah,
though, you know? And then the third, and then the fourth.
Yeah, well, I convinced him on the second one. I said, you got to get your finger behind and keep that trigger locked. You know, you must have punched the trigger. I didn't realize what was happening. And so he went ahead and tried to fire a second one, and that one shot probably 400 or 500 yards out into the middle of nowhere. The first one hit a tree about 30 feet above the bull.
Oh, wow. I've done one of those before.
Yeah.
Those are fun.
We all have. We just don't talk about it.
Oh, I talk about it. I'm pretty open. Sometimes people are like, dude, I can't believe you talked about that. I'm like, well, someone's got to, because everybody's doing it.
Yep.
I just missed a buck this season, 75 yards downhill. Like, thought perfect shot, but just didn't hit him. Right over his back.
It's better than hitting them, right?
Well,
better than hitting him bad.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, okay. I'm like, I prefer to hit him, but.
So the other, one of the things I like about these two is this new center mass system, which isn't new to the industry, because obviously Matthews came out with a very similar scenario this last year, but I think you're going to start seeing more companies do that, where they can integrate the weight of your extremities into the riser itself.
So explain to people that can't see what you're talking about,
Yeah, so on what BOWTECH calls their center mass system, that's similar to what Matthews has, instead of having the sight mount on one side of the riser or another, it mounts directly through the middle, so it centers up your weight. So you're going to have less of a need for scenarios like sidebars to counterbalance your weight. So if you've got your sight leaning one way, or your weight from your sight leaning one way, as well as your quiver, and in our scenario when we're shooting heavy arrows, your quiver weight further away from the riser itself can actually create a little bit of a natural lean in your hand. So as you bring more things back to center mass, the center of the bow, there's less need for all the peripheral weight to try to counterbalance out. So
that makes a ton of sense.
Currently, I run a left side stabilizer bar to counterbalance everything that happens to the right side. So my sight mounts on the right, my quiver's on the right. If I'm running a 7-arrow quiver with 550 grain Valkyries, you do the math, it ends up being a pretty decent amount of weight. So everything naturally in my hand when I draw wants to sit just slightly right, especially because the weight of all your broadheads and your field points are high, right? They're further away from the fulcrum point, which means that they have more of a mechanical advantage to shift or tilt that bow away from your actual pivot point, which would be your hand. So if you could bring everything closer to the middle and closer to the center, then you would have less of an influence of those things outside.
I can't believe that no one's done that. That's a very brilliant move.
Yeah,
that I know of anyway.
I think Matthews was the first one last year to come out with this type of setup, and then now BOWTECH has it, and I got a feeling you're going to see everybody go to it.
Everyone.
Oh, yeah. Matthews did it first?
They did, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, it makes a ton of sense.
Similar to, you're going to start seeing, I think, people come out with their own version of the deadlock cam system, because it makes tons of sense. If you don't need to do string twist, create cam lean, if you don't need to shim your cam to bring everything aligned.
I just think anything that companies can do to simplify, because the reality is most people don't have the skill, maybe it's not skill set, but just time and equipment Like most people are not going to have a bow press.
Right.
Right. That's just the reality of it. So
and not only that, but a good bow shop to take your stuff to. You know, you really have to have people you can take your stuff to that you trust.
Yeah, because I could tell you right now, I could have a bow press in my garage, and I still wouldn't know what to do with it. So I would rather, I told her this earlier, I would rather come down here and be like, hey, Olivia, it's that time of year. Like, let's get tuned up.
Let's do it.
And then I don't got to worry about it again. Maybe I need to know how to do just 2 or 3 things in the field that could go wrong.
Yes.
Right?
That's what we do a lot here. Is like, okay, we're going to tune your bow. We'll get you set up. But here's a couple things that might be helpful for you when you're out in the field, like the deadlock system or the time lock. Or, I actually broadhead tuned through my deadlock system this year.
Really?
So, more than just, easy adjustability when you don't have a press. There's other things you can do.
Yeah.
Which makes it easier, helpful.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, it's not like the BOWTECH Pro Shop is convenient to everybody.
Yeah.
It's not. It's out of the way, right? But we'll generally come down once right before the season to make sure all of our stuff's dialed in. I did it this year. Check my timing. Check everything. Just make sure that I'm dialed before I go. So then that way you just have a lot of confidence in your setup. And to do all that at home, I mean, like you're saying, there's a lot of equipment that you got to buy. And then you have to trust yourself if you're just not really good at those things.
You got to be highly mechanical to do a lot of those things.
You do.
In my opinion. As coming from an averagely mechanical person.
Yep.
So I would rather just have one tool, and it's in my pack at all times, and I know how to do very basic things. If anything happens beyond that, then I've had to do this before. I've had to drive home several times. I've had bows blow up. I've had all kinds of problems. I mean, that's just the reality of the beast. But if you can fix 90% of problems with one tool, or
100%, yeah, you can do dang near everything on these things with a single Allen wrench.
Yeah.
Which to me is massively valuable. Because there's places that I hunt. I mean, if I'm on Lanai,
you're screwed.
Shit hits the fan with my bow.
Yeah.
My arrows are going all over the place.
Yeah.
Where am I taking it to? Like, I'm going to catch the next ferry over to Maui tomorrow and, go get my bow taken care of. Like, that's not an option.
Right.
If I'm in, 2 miles off the southern border in Arizona, coos deer hunting, and the closest good quality bow shop is Tucson, 3 hours away, or Phoenix, 5 hours away, then what happens if something goes awry? You can, those types of hunts, you can't take 2 bows.
No.
I'll pack a second bow on my Roosevelt hunts because throw it in my camper and go.
Yeah, exactly. Just have it in there.
But as far as for most of anything else that you're doing, to have access to a good quality bow shop is a lot of times the hindrance for a lot of people. So having something that you can learn easy and work on your own is, I think, a very, very valuable thing.
100%. It's fun having a local bow shop to go to.
It is.
It's not only from a technical perspective and a service perspective, but also you will find, and I've talked about this in my podcast before, especially in the wintertime when bow hunters are depressed.
Yeah.
You find there's a lot of community there.
Yep.
That the people, almost everybody that walks in the door is very like-minded. They like doing the same thing. You can join the league. You become friends with these people. I mean, I'm still friends to this day to the man the bow shop I used to go to as a kid. I can still walk in there today, and he'll be like, "Brinker, what's up?"
Yeah.
I haven't seen him in 15 years. So I do think that the bow shop thing that's a good point.
Yep.
I have Cooch Archery also next to me.
Oh yeah.
Which is a super cool small. It's like.
They're pretty cool. Shout out Cooch.
Yeah.
They do have a good cool little bow shop. They have a dirt
bow
road
shop.
up there.
Yeah, it's like 15 minutes
more
up
like
a
a
gravel
bow
road.
closet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
with a great 3D course.
You would never know it's there.
No.
But what's so funny is when I post from there, and I don't even say it because they don't have an Instagram, I don't think. I never tag them or anything. They're like, dude, you were at Cooch? People are like, they recognize it. These local communities grow around these shops.
Yep.
I think you said it best earlier too, that we forget as bow hunters, like there's stuff to do in the winter, and we think of like target archery versus bow hunting. But you're still shooting your bow. You're still getting those reps in. You're still working on your anchor point, your stillness, your steadiness, getting on target, sight acquisition, aiming. And that's something that coming here taught me, because I was just like, oh man, I'm not a target archer. Like, I'm just a bow hunter. And it's amazing how that'll translate though. I mean, even hunting, late season this year, I was so much more steady and my shot cycle was dialed in. I didn't get the nerves I usually do because I've been shooting my target bow. When you shoot 60 arrows in a night, in a day, a couple times a week, you're just on autopilot. in a good way, not in the autopilot. You're going to make mistakes, but you just do those same things every time through your shot cycle. How, you aim, how you anchor in, and like, oh man, I just made a really killer shot and I wasn't as nervous as I usually was. Yeah. But I've been shooting all year long, not just 3 months, 4 months before season starts.
I would love to know the percentage of people that shoot their bow year round.
Oh, that's
small. That's a good one.
Yeah. I bet you it's 10%? 10% of archers, maybe 15.
I hear a lot of people we do around here that come in and they're, it's June, July, and like, I haven't touched this thing since the end of August. It's like, what?
I still have good friends
have broadheads on
that will be like, I haven't shot this since I killed my bull last year, and it's like August 15th.
Yeah.
And you can get away with that to a certain extent sometimes, but I just don't think it's the best. I think it's a short-sighted way to look at it. It's a tool that you can like kind of center your life around to like create community and something healthy all year that you're constantly working harder at. It's like getting you out of the house when it's dark. I think these night archery leagues are awesome during the winter. Yeah. And why not be a better shot? If you can even just be 2% better or 5% better. I know I can. Like I consider myself to be, just because I've shot a bow my whole life, I can shoot it pretty good. But I've shot with excellent shots. There's levels.
Oh, yeah.
And so I know that there's a lot of room for improvement for me. And so it's something that I've committed to this year is making sure, and I usually do. I usually shoot at least a couple maybe every couple days, a couple arrows. And then I'll really hit it up every day once the weather gets better. That's the biggest problem is most of us live in places where the weather is shit for the winter time. Right?
I can shoot 10 yards in my garage. And so I have a target in there at 10 yards. And when it's raining, I shoot in there. I can only shoot 20 yards in my yard. But I won't let the weather dictate getting reps in.
No.
Yeah, I'll shoot like 5 yards inside my house.
Yeah. It's better than nothing. Go back and watch some of the old. Cam Haynes just posted some videos this year, and one of them it shows a throwback of him coming home from work and he's shooting in his living room.
Oh,
at like 4 yards.
Yeah. It's still the same.
He's like, this is what I do.
Yeah.
Dude, the original Sitka office. So our headsets. There's only like 4 of us in this office in Napa, California, and I used to be the customer service person. So I was on a headset like this all day talking, but we put a block target and a 3D, like a McKenzie white-tailed deer at the other end of the office because it was empty. Like we rented this huge building. The company was small. And I used to sit on customer service calls and shoot my recurve all day. And there was holes all over the wall. I used to shoot through the wall all the time.
That's great.
Yeah, dude. It's even if it's in your garage, it's still working the muscle. You're still having to go through your process. And it takes so much stress off just getting shit dialed early and being comfortable with it. So you have to stress. There's lots of stuff to stress about in the summer. For me, I have to get my family time in, do all these camping trips and do all those things. So when hunting seasons come around, I don't got to worry about. And I usually am shifting around other gear so much that I'd rather focus on that in the summer. Make sure my backpack's dialed and anything that broke last year, which is usually something breaks, right?
This might be controversial for my first podcast. You can edit it out. But getting those reps in also, we blame a lot of misses and bad shots on animals on, that's just bow hunting. And sure, right, there's that. But I think a lot of times it's not just bow hunting, it's you didn't put in the reps.
I like how honest Olivia is.
It's bow hunter.
It's sometimes it's all the things, right? There's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot going on, but it doesn't have to be like that always if you would just practice. Just shoot your bow. Yeah. Like, don't worry about everything. Don't get off in the weeds. Don't watch YouTube for 47 hours talking about what everyone else shoots. Just shoot your bow and reach out for resources and listen to what other people are shooting and how they're shooting.
And the biggest part about shooting the bow is really learning the equipment and knowing the equipment. Yeah. Like, I made mistakes this year that I should not have after freaking 35 years of bow hunting because I didn't truly understand. Well, this year specifically, I had arc issues like 3 times. And that is such an amateur hour mistake. Like, I should have had 2 world-class Roosevelts this year if I just would have paid a little bit more attention to that arc. But I was cocky, and I tried to shoot through a couple holes that I didn't get through. But just knowing your equipment really, really inside and out, and you still might be an average shooter or just above average shooter, but at least you know your shit, and you know your limitations.
Right. Yeah. And we hunt, I don't know, at least 8 months out of the year. And so when you have all these different hunts that you go on, it for one, it gives you time. I mean, there is no like downtime to not shoot. So you have to constantly shoot. But I think to your point, what it does, like it gets to that, everything about the bow and the shot itself is second nature, which then gives you more time to think about things like what's in my flight path of my arrow, what's that trajectory look like. So it does, you're less worried about the mechanical stuff because it is so automatic that now it gives you the ability to focus on some other things. And it's like being a really proficient ball handler in basketball. You know, once you know where you can control the ball without looking at it, now you can pick your head up and look at where your defenders are. It gives you that ability to kind of slow things down as well in your mind, because you're not having to like hurry and think about, oh, did I do this right? Where's my anchor point at? You know, because I mean, you hear guys talk about they draw their bow back and they can't even look through their peep. Well, they don't realize that they're holding the bow off so they're released like off their face. They're not even anchored into where they need to be. So when you start eliminating all that stuff out by putting in the reps, by putting in the work and knowing your equipment, it gives you the ability to focus more on the stuff in front of you.
Absolutely. What do you got, Olivia?
Fundamentals. I like your basketball analogy. That's what I tell people all the time. Fundamentals. We can have the best equipment, like this bow, like this sight, like this rest, everything. But if we don't understand how this is going to work with our draw length, with our arrow, with our FOC, then you don't know. If you don't know that your arrow is going to drop really hard after 70, but it wouldn't at 50, then you're going to miscalculate and make a weird shot. Yeah.
Well, so where are we, Olivia?
We've done.
We've got the sight on. We got the rest on. Could you let's see. What
need to set your peep height?
Yeah, I'm gonna say. So I hadn't tied in your peep yet because I just want to make sure it's in the right spot.
Okay.
Yeah, but
it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Amazing.
She's a beaut. So we've got the drive. She's a beaut, Clark. Perfect timing. Got the drive cage drop away rest on there from Ripcord. So top or bottom limb. I didn't ask you. I just tied it into the bottom because we're gonna put a quiver up here eventually, and it is better. But yeah.
Hey, I trust what you guys are telling me.
Different distance, different things going on there.
Do you want him to draw it in here so that he can set the peep height?
We can. We got a little shooting booth over there too if you want to actually.
Go through that one more time, Olivia, real quick.
Yeah. So we've got our Ripcord drive cage drop away rest. You can go top or bottom limb on it. We went to the bottom limb.
Cool.
And then we've got our BOWTECH center mass dual track sight.
Yeah,
so this sight
is rad.
I love that you did because this is my hunting setup. I'm really particular to it. I like having a full sight picture, but I also like having a second pin. It was a big switch for me to go from fixed pins to a mover sight, but this has really helped me with that.
I like the vertically oriented pins.
Yes.
To my eye, and the symmetry of it just makes sense to me. My eye loves that. And I've never, other than just on the range today, I've never actually shot this system before. So I'm looking forward to getting used to it. But I think I really like it.
Yeah.
I wish it was 3 pins, but we'll get there.
That's Spot Hog's game.
Okay. Yeah. But it's rad. So
yeah. I mean the two indicator pins. So and you can move these, right? So these screws move, so you can slide them based off of what you're going to do. This is also micro adjust, so your bottom pin, your floater pin, you can move down. It's not stuck there, so you'll gap it based off what you're shooting.
Right.
Mine's 20 and 40, so I just
That's kind of what I was thinking. I was thinking 25.
If I'm hunting the coast, I'm in the brush, I keep it around 20 and 40. I don't lock it in. If I'm going to go somewhere or I see something off the distance, then I turn my sight ahead of time. Some people don't like doing that, some do, but like you guys were saying earlier, movement is a big thing. So the least amount of movement you can do when it matters is the best. So it's like a couple seconds, I'm going to move my sight before I start my stock. Nothing to it. Yep.
Cool. So I got to go draw this thing now?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Olivia.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
How do you feel about your first podcast performance?
I think pretty good. I didn't curse, so I think I did pretty good.
You only had one controversial
shit, you didn't say anything bad?
No, my boss, Casey's going to be so proud of me.
All right, we're going to go go draw this thing. And